Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Expat Woman Show. My name is Nyna Caputi. I'm the founder and CEO of the Expat Woman and the host of the show. And I'm really excited today to bring you Amanda Molenar, all the way from the Netherlands. She was a speaker at the Expat Woman Summit in March of this year, March 2024. I don't know how we connected, but I'm so glad our paths crossed. And I was also on her a podcast, which she'll share a little bit more about. And she is a former diplomat, and now she's a life coach for high-achieving expats. So, without further ado, welcome, Amanda. Thank you for being here. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about what you do and your expat journey.
Hi, Nina. Thank you so much for welcoming me to the show. And it's really nice to reconnect with you again. My name is Amanda Molenar. I am a life coach for high achieving expats now, as you said. I was a diplomat for the Dutch government for 7 years, but I quit my diplomacy career about 2.5 years ago. And I switched right away to life coaching because I knew that was a life calling of mine. And I felt instantly also that I wanted to work with expats because I really love this high achieving expat group who are very self reliant and who get a lot of things done, but who need a little help sometimes to make the right decisions. Um, so, as a diplomat, I lived in Brazil, in Brasilia, the capital, for 3 years. I worked there at the embassy. But I had actually already lived abroad before I was a diplomat. So I spent about a year and a half in South America when I was young, 20, 21. I was traveling and living at different places at the time. I spent 6 months in Argentina also doing an internship. Then I moved to London for 2.5 years and eventually Brazil. And just this year, I was in Brazil again, this time for 6 months in Rio de Janeiro. So overall, I spent, I think, almost 8 years abroad. And every time I moved back home to the Netherlands in between. So there was a lot of back and forth moving and adapting to new and old cultures. So that's a very short my expat journey.
I love it. Thank you. Yeah, I didn't realize you went back to Brazil again. And of course, you're a repat now, which adds another layer
Yes,
to your whole expat journey, because I think that's, another whole way of challenge. I mean, a whole set of challenges. There's pros and cons, I'm sure, as you know. And I hope we can touch upon that as well. So
for
I
sure.
wanted to talk about, your diplomatic life and uh, because when you go as an expat, whether you go for a job or you go as an expat partner or you go to study, each of them has their own challenges.
Yeah.
Wondering what life was like as a diplomat, because I think you get a few additional maybe services and support.
Oh,
My
for sure.
uncle was, yeah, my uncle was a diplomat. He was the Indian ambassador to a lot of different countries. I got
Hmm.
to visit him in Egypt. So I got a little taste of what
Hmm.
diplomatic life was like. So I'm curious, like, what was it like being a diplomat, and what were some of the challenges you faced, and what was some of the support you got that made it easier for you to assimilate into the country? Not just assimilate, but just kind of get a navigate the country
Yeah.
you moved to.
Yeah, well, life as a diplomat is very fun, although I think you get less support as a junior diplomat than as an ambassador. But it is a very, very exciting and privileged life. Um, I really loved the diplomat lifestyle. The job itself, I also liked it, but it wasn't my real passion. But it was very cool, and I got to meet a lot of wonderful people, from ministers to indigenous families in the Amazon. So that was, yeah, really special. And it is a life that you cannot really get elsewhere. When I left the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I also knew, like, okay, this is a real change and a real decision, because they kind of have a monopoly in the Netherlands on this job. It's not like I can work for the competitor. So it was a little bit of a difficult decision. It was a few years in the making, actually. But yeah, life as a diplomat was fun, and you get a lot of good perks. I speak only from my experience. I don't know how it is for other countries. I know some other countries have a few, some have more, some have less perks. But you have a nice lifestyle. As I said, you get to meet really wonderful people. You get to live in beautiful houses. There's good money involved. it's a really exciting job because you get to represent your country. And so that part was all really cool and very privileged and very prestigious. And I think this part is also what keeps a lot of diplomats tied in the golden cage, if I'm honest. But there are also a few downsides, I would say, because as a diplomat, you're never fully in the country because you will always represent your own country. Even in your free time, you can't go crazy because, it rubs off on your country. So you behave. I mean, I would do that normally also, but like you just are a little bit more careful about what you do also in your free time or what you say. You are a little bit less free in saying your own personal opinion about the country. So you're just a bit more cautious, I would say. Um, and sometimes it was also difficult, if I can get a bit personal, like when it comes to dating, for example. I was living in a small capital, but as a diplomat, I felt, at least my female single friends, we all felt a little bit less free to just date freely in Brasilia because people knew we were a diplomat. Or yeah, you feel a tiny bit less restricted. Sorry, more restricted. So these were some of the downsides, and the support that I got to integrate or to live my life in Brazil was actually not that much. And this also depends really per country. In the Netherlands, we get support in languages, for example, but I know the British diplomats get like a whole year of language training. We don't get that. There was some, yeah, practical support, but for the single diplomat without kids, if I'm really honest, there wasn't that much support. I think the ministry can do a better job there, and maybe other ministries as well. And this is also why I am now helping high achieving expats, because it is not just about the practical support or cultural support. It's also about mental support and personal support, because you're going through changes and a lot is coming at you. And I remember flying to Brazil, and the next day I was already expected to start my job at the ministry, even though I had just landed. But that's normal. And so you deal with that. But you have to deal with everything all at once, which can be quite a lot, especially if you travel by yourself. So that requires resilience and yeah, some strength to take that load on. And that is all good. But when the pressure is high, you also kind of fall back to your patterns and the things that you know well, which may not always be very helpful. So I really got later on, I got a coach and people like that who really helped me in my own journey. And now I see how valuable that support is. So this is also why I'm helping high achieving expats, not only with the cultural part that they need to deal with, but I'm really there for the mental support, I guess.
That is beautiful. You just shared so, I mean, thank you for, sharing some personal stories as well, but you just shared so much valuable insight, because you're right. People think like the life of a diplomat is glamorous, and I'm sure there's a lot of fun with it, but you also touched upon being single, because my uncle was married, so he
Yeah.
and he was the ambassador. So I guess the higher up you are, the more you don't have to do anything for yourself, right? Everything you're weighted on hand and foot in a way. But it's also fascinating. Maybe we need to do another episode just about the expat diplomat.
Sure.
I have so many more questions, but the topic today is so fascinating, so interesting. Being the CEO of your expat life, I love that. I really love and I know that's kind of your mission statement.
Yeah.
But so I wanted to ask you to define what do you mean by high achieving expats? Who
Yeah.
are these people? Because besides diplomats, who would fall into that category?
I guess anyone who is really or pretty ambitious in their career, who feels like, okay, my job is really important to me and I want to do it well. And I also coach people who are in between jobs or who do a good job on the outside, but they don't feel entirely happy or fulfilled in it. But they are ambitious. They are ambitious in life. They are ambitious in their career. And those are the people that I coach. Those are the high achievers that I call them. And
Thank
it's
you
really
so
about the level of ambition, I'd say.
So it's sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. You said it's a level of
Ambition.
ambition. Yeah, no, that
Yeah.
makes sense. So yeah, because what I find with some expats, and it happened to me. You move to a new country, and maybe you were doing really well in your country. You were very successful, and then because of the challenges of, the finding a job, settling down in the country, finding housing, if you have kids, finding schools for your kids, your ambitions take they push to the side, right? Very often you don't
Yeah.
realize, like, you don't invest in yourself. And I love what you shared about how you decided to invest in a coach after a while, because maybe you get some support. Now in your case, you were a diplomat, so you might have got housing, and
Yeah.
you might have gone, language training, but you still don't get that support, intercultural training, and how do you achieve success abroad. So is that what you specifically focus on? Because you only work with high achieving expats, right? So are
Correct.
you focused on only like people who moved to another country, and then what I'm trying to get at is what specifically do you help them achieve,
Yeah.
right? Because they could be, and are they entrepreneurs? You said they're in between jobs and professional. What is your goal, or what are their goals when they come to you?
Yes. So the high achieving expats that I coach come with a wide variety of like problems and desires, or things that they struggle with. And I realized that the overall theme is that all of them just want to be happier and more fulfilled in an area or more of their life, whether that's career, relationships, just a general sense of well-being and belonging, and feeling back in a driver's seat again, that they have control. And I help people really who struggle with, just now I've coached a few women who felt like, I'm here alone abroad and I really want a relationship, but it hasn't been working out for me lately. So can you help me with that? I'm also coaching a few people who struggle with, being visible in a very masculine workplace. I struggle with I've worked with people who don't really know what they want to do, or who need to make a decision about where they're moving next to. And basically, they're all people who are really good with their heads and analyzing things and approaching it through a rational way. Um, and they get a lot of things done usually, but they are at some point in their life where they feel, my old way isn't fully working anymore. And I just keep getting stuck in this same thinking loop. Night after night, I'm thinking about this and I'm not getting any further. And that's when they reach out to me. And I help them go inwards. I help them make space for their emotions, patterns that they've been carrying with them for their entire life, their mindset, and taking different kind of action so that they can start to feel happier and more fulfilled in this global life, no matter where they go. And I don't offer really any intercultural support or expat support, like how do I find friends, or I don't know, how to feel at home more in the Netherlands or something like that. I'm really a life coach for expats. I'm not an expat coach. It's a subtle difference in wording, but a bigger difference in the meaning. And so I'm really a life coach helping people with their lives, but I'm specialized in expats. And so that part of their life, they don't need to explain that to me because I get it instantly. And I coach a lot of people, and I've struggled with this myself as well, where they say that whenever they share a dilemma with the people back home, the people back home approach it very in a like a black and white way. And there's not so much space for the nuance that comes with expat life that they do feel. And so they find it very hard to find support when they need to make a tough decision with their friends and family back home. And they find more support with expats in the country that they live in, but sometimes they don't feel safe enough to talk about it at their work, for example, because their visa is tied to their job. So they find that natural understanding with me, and we don't have to. They don't have to explain really what expat life is about. I know it instantly, and so we can go to the core of the issue, which is always, in my opinion, the person themselves, and that's what we're working on in my
I
coaching.
love that. I thank you. That was a fantastic explanation, and it makes total sense to me what you just shared. And thanks for explaining the difference between a life coach for expats and
Yeah,
an expat coach. And I also, it was interesting that as a life coach for high achieving expats, it's not the focus is on helping them find success in whatever their challenges are, right? Whether it's relationship or
yeah,
job, or maybe even being a mom, because
yeah,
they're doing the inner work. Yeah, that's fantastic. Also when you were talking about that, so my husband's American, and some of the issues that I faced and challenges he didn't understand because he's not lived an expat life, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
because you say you go to who's your closest support system, your parents, your best friends, your partner, spouse, but if they have not experienced that and don't have the
exactly.
training, and I've been in the US 21 years now, almost 22, but maybe I don't know if there were expat coaches and life coaches then, but I struggled a lot initially, and that's what led me to create the Expat Woman.
Yeah,
It was hard. So now let's talk about the topic of being the
yeah.
CEO of the expat life. I mean, it's all leading up to that. So first of all, did you come up with that term? Because I really like it. And then
I did.
secondly,
Yeah,
you
I
did.
did. Yeah, I saw someone else using the term CEO in a completely different sector, and I felt, and this is when I saw, oh, the CEO approach is really how I've been living my life lately. And then I termed it "Become the CEO of Your Expat Life." And to me, I think, let me start with something else, because how most expats approach their expat life is in a reactive, responsive way. And this is not always who they truly are, because my ambitious expats that I coach, they are very proactive. But when it comes to their expat life abroad, they become a little bit more reactive. So they are people who like to experience a lot of things. And so they are very driven to say yes to everything that comes their way, to new opportunities, meeting new people, new travels, new, I don't know, career options. They say yes because they like that adventure, and they want to make the most of their stay abroad. But what you do is, besides having a very exciting life, it's also a pretty reactive life. You're not fully in the driver's seat. And so I had a lot of people who told me, I feel I'm on this high speed train, but I actually have no idea where it's going. I know it's fast and I like it, but I don't feel like I'm really in the driver's seat and I can determine the destination. So it becomes a little bit more reactive, and it's fine overall. Like, my overall, they're still pretty much in charge. But the more or the longer you respond to things every year, like if you have a course correction of a few percent, but every year down the line, you may end up with a life that is exciting, but is not really fulfilling or matching with the authentic you and what you truly want in life. And so these ambitious expats that I coach, they have a really good life on paper with a prestigious job, like I have myself, maybe money to spend, a lot of prestige in their career, a lot of friends, but deep down they feel like, oh, this is not fully what I want, or maybe they're just wondering, is this really what I want? And another thing, how people are responsive, is that they maybe move abroad by themselves, and so they might feel lonely, so they'll say yes to every social opportunity. And again, that is just like moving away from what you really want and need, and it's just more out of fear based saying yes to things. And in both situations, you're not the CEO, that I call it, because you're more reactive. And a good CEO is proactive. They have a vision, they have strategy, they don't get distracted by minor details or setbacks. And I also want to coin it, actually, like the CEO of the modern world, I guess, because I do not always agree with how companies and organizations and the world is led by old leaders. But a good new CEO also has a lot of empathy, is a good listener, takes care of their needs, and really creates a win-win situation for everyone. And so if you can embody that for your own life, you are much more in the driver's seat, but also in a very sustainable way, because you take care of your own needs and you know where you're going. So this is what I call become the CEO of your expat life. And it actually has 3 pillars that I like to focus on. One is mindset, to really be aware of what you're thinking, because most people are not fully aware of their thoughts and beliefs that are limiting them. And one very quick, and please interrupt me if you have questions or if
No,
I
this
talk too
is
much, but one very
fascinating.
yeah,
Yeah.
one very quick example of how mindset is how important mindset is um a while ago I saw something on LinkedIn, someone that said, the first week in a new country after moving abroad is always the worst. It's terrible. And I thought, are you kidding me? The first week abroad is my favorite time because this is when everything is open. It's a blank new canvas. No one knows me. And I can just create a whole new life from scratch. And so for me, that is amazing. I love that start. But for other people, it is the most terrible phase to be in because they have nothing to hold on to. And you see, it is one same situation, two completely different reactions. And this is what is in between is the filter of mindset. And this person has another mindset than me, and not one is better than the other. But this mindset, or how, yeah, our limiting beliefs and our thoughts really filters how we see the world. So this is how mindset is so important. And you want to keep all your thoughts and beliefs in check and let them empower you instead of limiting you. Just like a good CEO would, they would empower their team. So that's the first pillar. The second pillar is a clear vision. And this is often where I see it going wrong as well, because a lot of people, like I said, they're very responsive and they have a vague idea of where they want to go, but it's not crystal clear. And my transition from a diplomat to a coach, I was able to do that because my vision about who I wanted to become was so clear and so vivid to me that it was really easy at some point to make the step and to quit my job. It took me a few years to get to that very clear vision, but once I had it, it was the most natural thing for me to do. And I did it with a lot of confidence. So having a clear vision of where you're going is key. And I know a lot of expats who say like, oh, but I don't know where I'll be in 3 years or next month, so I'm not going to invest, or I'm going to not make a decision on this or that because it might not make sense if I have to move again. But then you don't really have a clear vision, and then you're just again you're not riding the waves, you are just like taken to the shore by these waves. So having a clear vision is super important too, just like a good CEO would have. And the third one is taking care of your needs. And this is a very simple one, like your basic needs, like making sure your energy is really high, your physical energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy. But also what I like to call your special needs that are really about you. So you might have a special need for communication in a relationship. And if you are an expat, 9 out of 10 times your relationship is under pressure because there's long distance, or one is moving for the other, or one has a job and the other one is still finding one. So it's not always equal. And so this might be the need that you really need to take care of. Or maybe there are other kinds of needs where you are an introvert, and you saying yes to social events out of fear of loneliness is just really, really ruining your energy. So it's really good to know what your needs are, and not just to copy paste what is expected or what society tells you to do, but to really see, hey, what are my needs in this expat life, in my relationships, in my work, and with myself, and how can I really fulfill those needs? Because if you don't fulfill your needs over a long time, like, you are not going to have the energy and the confidence and the calmness to really continue being the CEO of your expat life and to go after that vision. So that is a really important pillar too.
That is so powerful what you just shared, and I couldn't agree more, because I wasn't the CEO of my expat life. All I knew was that when I moved here, that was I want to get a job, right? I just
Yeah.
want to get paid. I just want to, we very often associate the job with identity, especially in the US, where people the first question they ask you is, what do you do? And if you don't have a job, you feel like I'm no one, I'm nobody. But
Yeah.
what you just shared makes so much sense. And I do work with women who are in the C-suite, and
Mm-hmm.
here, in the US, there's a huge gender gap. There are very few women in C-level positions, and I think it's often from what you just shared, whether you're running a company in the C-suite or you are running your own life abroad. I think it's the same things, having that mindset, having the confidence, kicking imposter syndrome
Yeah.
to the sidewalk, having clarity on what you want to do. And sometimes that takes time. I don't know if you've heard the term finding your zone of genius,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, I think, but I think sometimes when you move abroad, because you've stepped out of your comfort zone, maybe it pushes you to find that zone of genius, but you have to do the work. As you said, you have to
Yes.
develop the mindset. And I think also another thing that, takeaway that I distilling out of your talk is being intentional. You have to be
Yes.
intentional, and you
Yes.
have to learn to say no. And I think I'm again comparing it with CEOs, right? They have limited time. You have your bandwidth is like also very limited, so you can't say yes to everything. You can't be
Yeah.
a people pleaser. You have to see what works best and taking care. So that was really
Absolutely.
fantastic. I mean, those tips you were able to so clearly share everything in such a short time. If anyone's watching us live, jump into the comments, say hello, let us know where you're calling in from, or even if you're watching the replay, because we will go back to the comments later. And if you have
Mhm.
anything to add to what Amanda just shared, or if you have a question for her, just type it out in the comments. So yeah, so that's very really cool. And then my other question for you is, for you as when when you were a diplomat, did you follow this framework, or did it become clearer to you after a period of time? Because for me, I do something similar now to what you did, but it took me years, right? I
Yeah.
was like a chicken with its head cut off, just like all flapping and flopping all over the place,
Yeah.
trying to find to make sense of this life abroad. So just curious, and how did it change your life? And even now as a repat, how
Yeah.
does that change your life being the CEO of your own life?
Well, I surely wasn't like this when I was a diplomat. So I was good at my career and I was saying yes to things and I was living a cool life, but I was also tired all the time and so busy and always on the go. And I wasn't in the driver's seat at all. I was in this high speed train and I had no idea where it was going, but I was liking the speed of it. But now, after I had some profound changes and a really hard time when I moved back after Brasilia to the Netherlands and starting my coaching training. That has all really changed me. And now I see so much clearer. Okay, it needs to happen from the inside out, and you need to embody that CEO first within, so you can then also do it in your outer world. And the difference when I moved to Rio now for 6 months, it was so big. And I knew I was moving for a shorter time and I didn't leave everything behind. I still kept my house here. But still, it was a big change. And also having my own business, there was a lot of pressure. And I was very, very busy, just like I was as a diplomat. But this time I felt so more relaxed and in control. And, like I knew I was busy, but I was still making time for exercise, my social fun. Meditation and stuff like that. These were all things that I would usually put aside when the busy wave of moving abroad took over again. And this time I was really like, no, because this is what I really need. And I just felt so much better, and my mindset was also so much better. So when I would be busy and tired and I would get negative feedback or something happening to me, I would right away question myself and this imposter syndrome would kick in. And now when things are happening, I'm just like, okay, it's just data I need to look at, or it's just input for me and it doesn't say anything about me. So everything has changed in the last couple of years for me. And but I really wasn't like that when I was a diplomat, and now I see the difference so clearly with who I am now.
That's fantastic. And also, I guess as a repat, you're following the same framework, because I'm sure you have
Yes.
challenges moving back. What before we end, what took you back to Brazil? So you are a life coach. What made you decide to move to Brazil for 6 months?
Yeah.
Yeah, as a
Well, for a longer time, I already knew I want to live in Rio sometime. So that had been on my mind for a long time. And I spent, was it 3 years in the Netherlands until I made the decision? Yeah. And it was a very hard period. It was Corona, the COVID lockdowns. My mom and my dad passed away. My grandma passed away. I had this transition from diplomacy to coaching. And so I had a lot of big life events going on. And I was just really tired. And I wasn't so happy in the Netherlands anymore. And it really felt every time that I try to get more grounding here, it just feels like something sweeps away the soil beneath my feet. And I decided, you know what, I'm going. And when my relationship ended, I felt like, okay, this is it. Now I've had enough. I've really tried. I'm going back to the country that made me so happy, just for 6 months, just to rebuild my energy again and to really give in to what I really want to do. And so that was the real reasoning behind it. And it was a really good decision because Rio was a lot of fun, especially the first few months, really rebuilt my energy. And then in the last 2 months, I was more in an ambitious mode and I wanted to get work done. And I couldn't get work done there because it's not that kind of city. And so I was really ready to leave after 6 months. And I was so happy to come back home here in this house that I have had a love-hate relationship for years. And now I'm just really so happy being here. I'm like, oh wow, the Netherlands is such a nice country. And now I can really enjoy it again, without all this weight of these personal life events that I was carrying with me. It feels like I had a little reset. And yeah, I feel really much better now. But as you say, I also use the CEO principle. So I'm very, very intentional about my life here. And I've learned from every experience abroad what I need, what I was missing, what I was craving, what makes me feel really good. And so I intentionally add those elements to my life here. This is an ongoing job I do.
I'm so sorry about all the losses. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that. But I'm glad that you found, what you want to do, what lights you up, and you found your home in a way. At least for now, it looks like,
At least for now.
you, right. And that's so important too. And
Yeah.
especially if you want to be the CEO of your expat life, knowing that, okay, I found belonging, I found my home, no matter where it is. Uh, so, Amanda, how can people get in touch with you? How can they learn more about your work and find you, etc.?
Yes. So I'm basically everywhere. I have my own podcast called This Expat Life, where you were a guest on as well. It's a very popular episode, by the way.
Thank you.
I launch a new episode almost every week. I also have, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, Amanda Molenar. On Instagram, that's Amanda Maxime. And my website, amandamaximecoaching.com. And if you want to get a taster of what I do, I'm offering some freebies that you can download. And I have a live event in Amsterdam happening this Saturday where we'll do coaching in a group, which is going to be really fun. And if you really want to get coaching with me for 4 months, you can always book a free match call to see if you and I can work together.
Beautiful. I will ask you to share those links in the comments of all
Yes.
three on our YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn pages. And at some point, this will also be a podcast, so we make sure we share the links there as
Sure.
well. But
Yeah.
I just want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm glad to, finally repay the favor. I'm happy that my podcast with you is doing so well. I think it was on
Yeah.
It was on LinkedIn, right? Was
Yes,
it? Yeah,
exactly.
very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Amanda. And thank you to everyone who's been watching us live or watching the replay. Bye.
Thank you, Nina.